And welcome to Our Kind Voice on Employment, Opportunity, and Innovation. I'm your host, David Levins, and today I'm thrilled to have Vanessa Vargas Wilson with us. She's also known as the Crafty Gemini, and she makes these great YouTube videos teaching people how to do all sorts of cool things, making quilts, sewing, gardening, preparing food. So it's wonderful how she teaches people how to share the good within them to create something beautiful. So it's a great honor to have Vanessa on. Vanessa, welcome to the program.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me on.
Good deal. Thrilled to have you. Can you give the folks an overview of what you do?
Sure. So my main thing, probably what I'm mostly known for, is my YouTube channel. It's called The Crafty Gemini, and they're basically instructional, how to do-it-yourself type of instructional video tutorials that I do. And I basically tend to create these videos where I'm teaching people how to do things that I do. So whether it be sewing or quilting or, like you mentioned, organic gardening, homesteading, canning, just all the things that I'm interested in. Sometimes I'll post pictures on social media, and then people will ask, hey, can you do a video on that? And so when I get the time, I go ahead and make one.
Well, and there's such a wide variety of things that you do. What was the first time you made something that you recognized that you had a passion for making things?
I have been a maker, I would say, my entire life. As a child, I never played with dolls. I had no interest in playing with dolls. I was more into board games, puzzles, logic games, things that had to do with math, creating and building things. I was always kind of a crafter, putting things together, three-dimensional objects. And so I always used to make stuff as a kid, but I never actually sewed as a child. I did a few things, I think, in school, hand sewing type of projects. But I never sewed by machine because my mother was actually scared to teach me. She was a seamstress, and when she came to the United States in the 60s, she worked in the garment industry in New York City. And so as a teenager, she was super fast on those industrial machines, and she would often sew her finger under the needle of the sewing machine. So she would, pass out and then come to again and then continue working, that kind of thing. And so she was traumatized that would happen to me. So ever since I was a kid and I'd ask her to teach me, she would refuse because, we had an industrial sewing machine at home, and it was quite dangerous, I suppose, to teach me. So I really had my hands in pretty much every other craft. I had, my paternal grandmother made and decorated cakes, so I jumped into that, too, when I was a teenager and flew out to visit her, and she taught me her recipe and her secrets of that. And cooking is actually one thing that I've always done. I've been cooking, I would say, 3-course meals ever since I was 6, 7 years old. So just making things. And the mathematical aspect, I think, of making things is what really gets me. I'm the product of an engineer and a drafter, and math is my forte. So if I can use math skills to create tangible, practical things, necessities, I think that's really the fun part for me. So being able to pass that on to others and teaching them those skills is really rewarding for me.
Wow. And I was a math major myself, so that's maybe why your videos speak so clearly to me. But
a lot of people say that. I think it's because I really come at things from a really methodical. I'm one of those people that writes lists, bullet points. Whenever I took notes in school, everything is bulleted. I need to have really to the point, short and precise and concise instructions, directions, whatever it is that I'm doing. And so I think I tend to teach in that same way because I don't want to skip anything. I want to make sure that you're grasping every single aspect. So in the world of YouTube, with these instructional videos, it's really easy now for people to learn these skills from the comfort of their own home, right? People have mobile devices, you have your cell phone, your tablet, a laptop, computer, no matter the size, you can watch these free YouTube videos on whatever device you want. And because I walk you through really step by step, I have a lot of people actually who will sit there with their iPad and they'll press play, do that step and then pause it, pause it, do the step, come back to it, press play, and they'll do each step like that because that's how step by step I teach it, basically. So at the end of the project, they stand back and they're like, I just made this, I can't believe it. And they pretty much freak out because it's like you're holding their hand through the entire process, but at the end of it, they actually created it themselves. They just happen to be watching me side by side doing it there with them.
And it's a beautiful thing. And all videos are not equal. We tried making pizza, and a guy just said, put a bunch of yeast in, and we had this pizza that rose to a foot tall. But it's going to take over the house.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
I appreciate the clarity in your videos, and also how how important it is to give safety instructions. Whatever it is, you want to make sure the people doing the videos are safe, and that comes through how much you care.
Thank you. Yeah, because, it depends. It's like when you're used to doing something, you know the background of it. You are kind of, you're used to that kind of stuff. So you're tackling whatever the project is or jumping ahead. So what I try to do is start from the beginning. So if you're a complete newbie to sewing or quilting or whatever it is, and you come across my video somehow, I want you to be able to successfully complete the project, whether it's a recipe or a tote bag or something, because and so I think it's important in that sense to go back and explain the background of it, why we're doing this step, not just do this, but why you're doing it. So what I try to do, especially with the more crafty type of projects and tutorials, is that not only are they learning the skills that they need to complete that specific project that we're working on in that video, but also that they're building up their skill set. So the next time maybe you're at the store and you see a skirt and you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, they did this just like we did in that other project, or they attached, an elastic waistband just like we did in the one project. So then you start analyzing and looking at things differently to the point where you've built up enough skills that you look at something and you're like, you know what, I think I can make this myself. And so that's where I try to get people with that education side of it, is building up their skill set, teaching them new techniques, and getting them to at least try them so they can see that it's really not that hard.
There must be so many satisfying things about creating these kinds of videos and helping people in this way. Is there one thing that's most satisfying to you about doing these videos?
I think the one thing as a teacher more than anything, because I am a maker, I love to learn. That's like my goal in life, is to learn as much as I can about as much as I can. I'm always into the next new thing. My husband's like, you're always looking for the next shiny object. And I guess that's the Gemini in me, multiple personalities. I'm scatterbrained. But that's why I like so many different things. I don't just have one hobby. I just like to learn. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to learn. It's just, I've always been like that. I mean, as a kid, I would cry when I didn't get a chance to go to school if I was sick, because I couldn't understand, I have to miss school. I don't want to miss school. I loved school. I was like a really weird kid. I'd ask for extra homework and things like that. So that kind of gives you some background on my, the want that I have just for more knowledge and more skills. And it's just, it's fun for me.
It's very clear from your videos you're like a Renaissance person, and there's so many skills you have. If suddenly we lost electricity and all modern conveniences, I'd probably die within a few days. I think
no way. You got to be resourceful, David. You got to be resourceful.
You've got to. And, these videos are amazing. Can you walk us through the process once you pick a topic, from picking the topic to actually creating the video?
Sure. I think these days it's pretty easier. And actually, I don't think I answered your question about the most rewarding part of it. I was going to say that as a teacher, seeing the smile on your student's face, or getting a comment or an email or a post on Facebook from them with a picture of the completed project, that to me never gets old. I mean, I've been doing this for over 6 years, and every single time somebody posts a picture like, I just made this hat, or I just made a little sweatshirt for my dog, I can't believe I sewed this, every single time, that will never get old to me. So seeing the success in my students from my instruction is like the best part, especially for a video when I did 5 years ago, that you almost forget that it's even out there, and then people write you and they're like, hey, I just used a video today to make this. That to me is the most rewarding part.
That's a very cool thing. You planted this cyber seed, and it might grow immediately, but it may take 5 years, and someone's doing something wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the beauty, I think, about the DIY kind of instructional how-to videos, because they're evergreen, right? I'm not doing a video on some new Harry Potter book or something that's going to, in 2 months' time, nobody's going to think about it anymore. These are life skills and practical skills that you can apply. 10 years from now, you can get on YouTube and look up how to use a sewing machine, and you're probably going to find my video from 10 years ago, So, it just, they don't expire. I mean, I can always redo some and teach kind of new skills and new techniques, or redo them with better lighting and a better camera. But the content is still quality content, and it's good, I think, in any time.
And that was another question I have. Let's say you make this video that shares the best practices as you see them at the moment, but then someone might email you and say, I do it this way, and you see it as a better way. How do you handle that? Do you redo the video sometimes?
I just do another video. I don't necessarily go back and take a video down. What I tend to do in some videos, if I do a video like that in that sense that can vary, a lot of things. It's an art form, right? Making and creating, everybody's going to have their own way of doing it. The same way you might look and analyze 5 different artists, they all do their thing differently. So I always tell people that, try this out, try it this way. Or sometimes you'll see that in my tutorials I'll offer 2 or 3 different ways on how to do it. If it doesn't make sense to you this way, try this method. Because in teaching students in person, I'll have sometimes 2 or 3 techniques, and I'll see some students catch on very quickly to one way, say the way that I prefer to do it, but then I see that maybe some other students are struggling. So I'll come to them and offer them a variation on the technique, and then they pick it up super quick. So I think as a teacher, it's also our duty to kind of know your student or read them and try to kind of switch things up in a different way, because we all know, right, that even as kids, that everybody learns differently. So I think people that are visual learners really tend to gravitate towards my style of instruction. Because it's on video and I walk through very clearly what the steps are. But at the same time, if there's someone who may not be grabbing it, I always, I'll try to explain to them a different way of doing it, or tell them to just, this is the end result that you're going for, so try and figure out a way of how it works, how you can do it so that it works for you. And so and even when I do project videos where I'll tell them, this is the project that we're making, I always encourage my students to try and make it their own. You don't have to use the same style or the same colors or the same, exactly the same technique that I'm doing. Make it your own. Get comfortable with the materials, with your sewing machine, and have at it.
That's very satisfying when you're creating something to
absolutely, because now you're not following anybody's directions or pattern instructions. Now you feel like you're a designer. You created it yourself from an idea you had in your head. So I think that's also, like you said, a very satisfying part of making things.
Now earlier we were talking about you pick a topic.
That's right.
And then can you walk through the steps from selecting the topic to actually making the video?
All right. So I'm not the most organized person, David. It looks like I am because I do so much, but I really am. I'm scatterbrained. My husband has to rein me in. So if I have a fabulous idea, I might have 3 other projects that I'm working on, but I just come up with another idea and I say, I have to make this video right now. So I will just come up with the topic, the idea, or say the project. Sometimes it's I'm doing things with my kids and I'm helping them make a little project, and then I think, you know what, this would be a really good tutorial. So I'll go ahead and redo it and make another sample. And then I'll tell you the truth, I don't really do anything writing out specific bullet points or kind of the rough draft of a script that you would do normally in regular TV shows and programs like that. I really just turn on the camera and I just go. I ad-lib everything. I never script anything. Because it's to me, it's almost like there's somebody in the room watching me. So it's the same way that I teach in person. So there's no reason for me to script it. Does that make sense? I do this all the time. I don't have to try and remember anything. I'm going through the process. I'm showing you the step by step. And so as I'm doing it with you, I remember everything that I'm doing because I'm touching it, I'm folding it, I'm pressing it. And so I just kind of describe what I'm doing every step of the way. And when I have to change shots, I will just stop the camera, move the position, change the tripod to where I need to be if I'm sewing at the machine, and go back and forth until I film the entire process of making the project.
No, it makes total sense. You have a dynamic grasp of the material you're sharing.
Yeah, now, and people ask me that all the time. You don't write notes, you don't take notes, and I'm like, I do this every single day. I feel like if it's something that you do all the time, you wash the dishes in your house, if somebody sparks a conversation with you, you don't have to have notes on it, it because you do it every day. Right?
It makes total sense. So we need to go to our first break right now.
Sure.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this.
This is NASCAR driver Kurt Busch, and I am proud to support our nation's veterans. Do you know you can get a faster decision on your disability compensation claims by filing an electronic fully developed claim, or e-claim, on e-benefits? Take it from a guy who lives his life in the fast lane. Faster is better. Visit ebenefits.va.gov today to learn more.
My name is Claire Bloom, and I started a 100% volunteer nonprofit organization in October 2011 to put food in the hands of local children who have little to nothing to eat for the 68 hours between the free lunch they get in school on Friday and the free breakfast they get in school on Monday. I call the organization End 68 Hours of Hunger, and our vision is to end childhood hunger in America one school at a time. We start programs wherever we have 2 volunteers in a community who are prepared to step up and take responsibility for running the program, and we grow from there. Today, we're feeding 900 children each weekend in 29 communities, and we're growing. If you're interested in starting a program in your community, please visit our website at www.end68hoursofhunger.org and click on the tab at the top of the page that says FAQ. Everything you need to know about starting a program is there, including videos on how to talk with groups, how to set up your space, and even what kind of food to include in the bags. Email me at end68hoursofhunger@gmail.com, and thanks.
A lot has changed from when Nola Osh started school until the time she finished.
When I received my diploma, it was a big to-do.
At 95 years young, Nola became the world's oldest college graduate.
If we don't concentrate on our ages, we go ahead and do things as if we were younger.
So no matter how old you are, live life and pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
A Kind Voice Radio.
And welcome back to Kind Voice on Employment, Opportunity, and Innovation. We're here with Vanessa Vargas Wilson, and we're talking about her YouTube videos. Now, Vanessa, we had this song called A New Kind of Friend about the kind of relationships that are being formed, enabled by technology, how you're not meeting these friends like you used to, but you're forming a kind of relationship with them. Can you talk about some of the interesting friends or relationships you've made through your YouTube videos?
This is a very interesting subject that you talk about. So this whole the relationship thing. I live out in the country, and so we're close to a college town, but we're not in a city or in a bigger town where we live at. And so that has plays a part in it as well. But then aside from that, sewing and quilting in particular are very solitary type of hobbies, right? As a young mom with little kids, most of the time that I get to sew and quilt is after my kids are in bed. So it's like late at night, I'm in my studio, and it's just me with a sewing machine or the camera if I'm filming a tutorial, right? And it's by yourself. It's not like in the traditional days of quilting here in this country, where people would gather together, a bunch of women, and work on these projects by hand and gather together in what they call sewing and quilting bees. So we have modern-day guilds, but you meet once a month. You don't have that really tight sense of community. And being a young quilter at that, I don't have that many friends that quilt that are in my age group. So it's very lonely sometimes out here, especially in the country, late at night by myself, and a bunch of different factors. And so I actually put a call out, I want to say the year before last, towards the end of the year, and I put out a survey actually asking people if they, my viewers on YouTube, if they would be interested in having some type of an online guild where we could obviously meet a lot more often than just once a month. Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that either have same or similar situations that I'm in, or some people have medical conditions that they cannot leave their house on any given day. They can't drive 60 miles to their nearest quilt shop and take a class and things like that. And so I had been getting that type of feedback over the years, and so I finally decided to put together an online quilt club. And so right now, we started our second year this year, and I have over 900 members. So I think that speaks a lot to say that there are plenty of people out there looking for that sense of community, that friendship. And actually last year in October, we got to bring it into real life. The same group, I launched our first in-person quilt retreat here in Florida. We had ladies come from 15 different states and 2 Canadian provinces. And we all got to meet in person. When I tell you the emotions in the room were, out the roof, because they've known each other online through the private Facebook group that we have, through the Quilt Club forums, through all these different things. Several of them we do monthly swaps where you kind of make a little project and send it to your partner, kind of like a pen pal. And so every month it has a different theme, so you make something with your partner's favorite colors and things like that. And so several of them had been swap partners already. They've been chatting, texting each other, so they were friends to begin with, and then they got to meet in person at the retreat. And so it was super emotional for a lot of people, and I felt like right then it was like, yep, I knew something like this was definitely necessary, where people needed that connection of somebody who speaks their language and just somebody that could relate to them, that you could show your projects to. Because as quilters, something that we run into a lot is like you spend so much time, you put so much love and energy into these projects. when you're done, you're so excited. You want to scream it to the world, like, look what I made. And usually when we show our finished projects to people who have no idea anything about quilting or sewing, or that's just not their thing, it's kind of like, oh, that's cool, and so you feel you're just like, are you kidding me? Like, do you know how long it took me to make this? This is like the best thing I've ever made. Look how perfect the corners are. And you're so proud of your work. And people who don't appreciate it just kind of like, that's cool. And so to have a group of other people just like you who get it and speak your language, I think that made all the difference to, all of us in the group, really, even to me, because you're able to post pictures and you get feedback from people. You're not too sure about color options. You post 3 different fabrics and you say, hey, which one do you all think goes better with this? And instantly you're getting responses, right? Because everybody has their phone on them, their iPads and tablets, and so you have that instant connection. So although it may not be in person, like people say, put your phones down and have conversations with people, in our community, this is the way that we connect and the way that we're able to connect with people all across the world. I have members in the club from Singapore, France, Canada, the U.S., Australia, all over, really.
Wow, I think it's wonderful. You're not just pushing content out, but bringing people together in this beautiful way. Now, I believe
absolutely.
you used the term swap buddy. Can you expand on what that means?
Sure. So every month in my quilt club, we send out basically a form that people can sign up and says, hey, if you're interested in doing the swap for this month, just enter your information here, and they'll have directions on what the project is. Sometimes, like during the summer months when a lot of people are traveling, we will keep it simple, and it will just be, you're sending scrap fabric squares to your partner. But other months, like for this month, for example, the theme is inspire. So the idea is you email your partner. So when people fill in the form, we go through and match them up, double them up, so they each have a partner. And then we email everyone and let them know who their partner is. So now they have each other's email addresses, and they can start corresponding and getting to know each other a little bit more. Now, if you do research online for sewing and quilting swaps, you will see that the majority of them are anonymous. You just get, whoever's in charge of doing it will send you a name of somebody and their address, and you just make whatever it is and you send it to them. But you don't know who they are, and they don't know who you are, right? So I don't do that. Again, adding to the sense of building community and getting to know one another, we make it so that you know exactly who your partner is. And the idea is that you chat with each other back and forth. And, it's crazy because we have some really touching experiences with this swap partner thing, and I'll give you an example. Maybe a few months into last year when we first launched the club, I give people an option to sign up whether they want to have a partner in the U.S. or in their same country wherever they live, or if they're okay shipping something overseas because shipping costs can be expensive, and I don't want that to be an issue. So I had 2 Australian ladies. Well, we had 6 at that time, and several of them checked that they just wanted to ship in Australia, right? So we randomly, everything is done randomly, match these people up together with their partners. And so I ended up getting an email from one of the club members saying that the swap partner in Australia that she was matched up with actually lived about 20 minutes away from her. And she had just had, they both were diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and one of them had her thyroid already removed, and she had gone through the surgery just 2 weeks before this other lady was getting ready to go in. So not only does she have a swap partner, okay, that it took her joining an American club to meet, who lives right, practically down the street from her, who has the same condition, who has already gone through it. So now she has a support system for the surgery that she was about to have, And so she was writing me and telling me we're practically in tears. It was definitely meant to be that we got matched up. And I was like, how crazy is that now she has a friend? They met for lunch, by email. Once they started corresponding, it was oh yeah, we're going to meet in person. And I'm it took them joining a club all the way over here to find somebody in the same situation and a support system and gaining a friend, to help her go through these tough times and stuff. So
I think that's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. The community part of it is just crazy. Some other people, we had 2 ladies come to the retreat who one of the retreaters' moms was the other lady's English teacher in high school. And they lived in completely different states. But they ended up finding that they had that in common. Other people, they went to grade school together. It's just amazing how small the world really is. And so bringing these people together by just, having a little club that they could join and be a part of. It's crazy.
It's a beautiful thing, just bringing people together to be kind voices for each other on this very positive endeavor. Now, quilts in themselves are beautiful, but they can tell stories. Mm-hmm. So can you construct a quilt to kind of tell the story of how you're bringing people together with the quilting clubs?
I mean, definitely. I think it's all in the design and the style of the design that you come up with. Some of them literally tell stories, and you'll have one block kind of depict an image of different things. I tend to be more of a modern quilter, so I like a lot of geometrics and things like that. But I think even if you're not specifically using the design of the quilt to tell the story, every quilt has a story, right? Because you made it. It took time to make. When you look at a quilt, like when I look at a quilt that I made 7-8 years ago, I'm just like, oh my goodness, what was I thinking when I bought that fabric? But I remember the excitement that I had when I bought it, and I look at it now and I'm like, hot pink, hot purple, and hot yellow. Like, what was I thinking? But I remember being so excited. So it's like you can always go back and tell basically where you were. You remember picking out the fabrics, what time of your life it was. I have friends, and I know several quilters who will almost as therapy work through things that they're going on in their lives through these quilt projects. And when it gets to be too much that they can't handle, they kind of just put the project aside, And when you feel like you can reopen that wound, you go back, you work on the project a little bit more, put it aside. So it really is therapeutic for a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of people, based on the comments and emails that I get in responses, is that a lot of them find my videos or find the craft of sewing or quilting through my videos after some type of loss in their life, whether it be an animal, a loved one, a spouse, whatever it is. And it really is super duper therapeutic. For me, I actually got into quilting when I was a second-year law student, and I was so depressed. I hated every second of it, and I was really, really needing a creative outlet. And that's when I got into it. I mean, I would run out of my classes to go take a quilting class, and my friends would just laugh at me. They're like, seriously, a quilting class? And I'm like, yep, me and a bunch of grandmas, and I love it. I was like 22, and I'm like, I love it. I'd come back with projects showing it to them, and they're just like rolling their eyes like, who cares, But that was my thing. That's what kept me going, and that's what made me happy,
It's a beautiful way, and the shapes could tell different stories to different people.
Oh,
so it's
absolutely.
a beautiful way to express yourself. Now, in the pre-internet days, someone had to maybe get a lucky break or something to get on television to become famous, like a Julia Child or other do-it-yourself people. But in today's day and age, everything's very democratic. You got this big following on YouTube because you make good videos. Can you talk about how that enables people like yourself the opportunity just to make a video?
Oh, absolutely, because we have such a massive platform. So a lot of people don't know, but YouTube is actually the second largest search engine after Google. So when it comes to a visual learner or somebody needing to do something or learn how it's done, instead of just going to Google, and reading an article on it, I want to see the video. So people, the same way they type things into Google, they do it in YouTube. And so for me, because I've been on YouTube for so long, it really helps because if you type in whatever the project is or something that I've already done a video on, chances are that my video will be one of at least the top 3 or top 5 because they've been there for so long. But with, the widespread of the internet all over the world, people can watch these videos. Mobile devices has made it even a lot easier. These buttons and icons that you have that you can just click and share them across all your social media sites, it just makes it so much easier to reach people. Which I think is key, And another thing is when I started, I was using just a point-and-shoot camera. It wasn't even a video camera. I look back now and I laugh. The little memory card I had maybe had like 1 or 2 gigabytes. So I'd film a couple of clips, then we'd have to stop. I'd go dump the footage onto my computer, clear it out, reformat it, put it back in, continue filming. It was crazy, the stuff I had to do. But we had no money, That's how we did it. You just make do, and I just started posting videos, and then it's crazy because when you start, you think, well, who's going to find this? But if you label the title or the description of the video enough that people can search for it, then people will find it. And the more people view it, the higher it pops up on the list of videos on YouTube. And so that's how people start finding you. And I'd have people write me early on, hey, I saw this video. This was awesome. Can you do a video on this? I totally loved your video. You do really good. You teach it really well, or I like your instruction style. Can you do a video on this and that? And so for about 2 years, I uploaded videos there for free. I didn't know that you could get paid for it. I just did it for fun. Whenever, we had a baby, a newborn at the time. Whenever he was taking a nap, I'd tell my husband, grab the camera. Come film this real quick.
You just started making videos for fun. At what point did you realize it was going to grow into this big way to connect with so many people?
So I think the more comments I started getting, and as I saw my subscriber base continue to grow consistently, my husband, I didn't believe it, but my husband kept telling me, this is really good. Or he'd see me work on a project, he'd say, do a tutorial for that. And I'd say, this is so easy, everybody knows how to do this. And he'd say, no, they don't. There's no video on it. Make it, And I was just like, no, nobody cares. And he'd say, they don't care about the project or what you're teaching them. People like how you teach. So even if there's 10 other tutorials out there, he's like, you make one, they're going to like yours because it's you, I mean, poor guy. It took me like 5 years for that finally to click in my head, like, yeah, you know what, I think you're right. He's like, finally, you get it, He was pushing that in my head for years and years, and I just didn't believe it. I just wasn't, I didn't have that kind of confidence. I didn't think that it was really me, No,
I think he nailed it. I mean, just the way you share things inspires people to want to go out and do that.
Yeah, I think it's one thing. I've always been good at sales. Actually, as a kid, as a teenager, I worked in telemarketing, and I was like one of the best salespeople, even though I talked my mouth all night long. And the boss, when people would get hired, she'd come in and tell them, hey, this is your first day. You have to have these sales by the end of your 3 days, or you can't keep this job. Vanessa loves to talk. I suggest you don't sit next to her if you're trying to get some sales, like. And so I always got in trouble in school for talking too much, and that's always been my thing. But what I noticed is that even if I was at a job that I wasn't passionate about or loved necessarily the job itself, if I could get behind the product, it would come across so like, wow, I buy it, like they're like, I'll buy it right now. And so I used to work for T-Mobile actually after I graduated college, working part-time. And the people would come into the shop, and at that point, smartphones were taken off, and the ones with internet and the fancy ones with the touch screen and stylus and things like that. And so a lot of my coworkers would try to sell these super expensive high-tech phones to an older demographic who just needed an emergency phone, but you would get higher commissions on those type of sales. And so for me, I've never been like that. Like, I don't care about the sale. I just want to help the people and get them with the right phone so they don't have to come back and complain or whatever. I just want to get a good phone in your hands that's going to work for your situation. And so by doing that, it's funny because I would get somebody, I would help them out and get them like the free phone. So my coworkers would look at me like, you're not making any money on that. I'm like, I don't care. And what would happen is the next week they'd come in with 5 members of their family to switch over their phones from whatever other company they had because they had such a good experience with me. And now you have 2 teenagers, a 30-year-old lady that works, and now all they want the super fancy expensive phones. So I'm like, now you see I get my commissions off of these 5, but I didn't have to try and push it on the 1. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like being real, being myself, and just being truthful, and that's really how I've always been. One of the deans at my law school used to say that I was the voice of candor on campus. He's like, you always just say what other people are thinking, but you actually say it.
You're saying what you believe, and that really comes across on the video.
And when I come behind something, which I think also goes to my brand and how I've been able to grow it, is that I only can use and promote products that I completely stand behind. Because if I don't believe in it, I cannot fake that. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do a video and you'll be able to tell that I don't like it. Or I'll tell you straight up, I don't like it. I prefer to use this, So unless it's something that I can stand behind 100%, then I don't even bother with it because I can't pretend.
And enthusiasm really comes through. We need to take a quick break for a good news report. We'll be right back after this.
Tell us about the good news there is today.
Hi everyone, this is Brianna Dincher with your Good News Report, where we deliver happy and exciting news from all over the world. This week we have a very uplifting story from Lake Charles, Louisiana, where a firefighter rescued 6 baby ducks. The most interesting part is that he brought them to safety with the help of his iPhone. After he was notified that several ducklings had been caught in a drain, firefighter Cody Necht headed out to the location and created quite of a clever plan. He wriggled into the drain and got this bright idea to impersonate the duckling's mother using the quack, quack, quack ringtone on his iPhone. His idea did in fact work, and after about an hour and a half, 4 of the 6 ducklings were rescued. The remaining 2 came out later, and all 6 were finally reunited with their mother. This is definitely a very cute and unique story because it is not every day that you hear of someone spending so much time with such a brilliant trick to rescue little ducklings. In my opinion, Cody is definitely using his kind heart to bring more love to his neighborhood and is helping the small creatures in his community. This week's quote of the week comes from the great Dr. Seuss. Today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Thank you for listening to today's report, and I hope that you continue to use your kind voice to bring happiness to others. Take care, guys.
A Kind Voice Radio.
And welcome back to Kind Voice on Employment, Opportunity, and Innovation. I'm your host, David Levins. We're here with Vanessa Vargas Wilson. And Vanessa, we just had a Dr. Seuss quote on our Good News Report. There's nobody youier than you. Are there any statements or quotes that inspire you?
You know, I'm not a big reader. I do come across a few different things online, and this is kind of how I work. When I find something that inspires me, or I read a quote, or I read something, I kind of ingest it at that point, use it to kind of figure out where I am at a point, either in my job, in my career, what I'm doing with my business, my life. Kind of, I just process it in that moment when I really feel inspired by it, and then I just keep going till I come across the next thing. And this year, that's actually one of the things that I'm trying to do a little bit more of, is like read and find some really inspirational books. Because I feel like as a creative person who always has to be creating things and designing new things, you have to kind of keep that creativity flowing. And running a business sometimes can, there's a lot of monotony in the paperwork and the taxes and the invoicing and things like that don't necessarily add to the most creative environment, for me at least. And so I actually, while I was listening to that quote, I was like, that is so the truth. There's definitely nobody youer than you. And I think that with my videos, one of the things that I try to do, like I mentioned earlier, is inspire people to try a different way of doing things, to make it their own, so that they don't feel like they have to follow a teacher or a designer just because that person is a teacher or a designer or published in a book or they had something in a magazine. We're regular people just like everybody else, and I feel like, when I tell my students, I'm like, anybody can design a quilt. Like, if you have an idea in your head, you don't go to school for this. It's art. You can create whatever you want to, and inspiring them to kind of find their own voice in their craft instead of just, copying what the teachers or the authors and designers are putting out there for them to do.
I like that answer about digesting something and making it your own, but then letting it go to create space for more creativity.
Absolutely.
Now, just from a YouTube standpoint, I'm just trying to understand the dynamics of things. There's something called a web series, and then there's people like you who create weekly videos. Is it the same thing?
So a web series, I don't know that there's any true definition, but people can, you can name your things whatever you want. When it's a series, at least the web series that I've seen, they kind of tend to be almost like, when you watch a TV show, that it's like season one. And so every recurring video, one after the other, build on the previous storyline from the previous episode. And so you'll often see that in web series. For me, I call those series as well on specific topics. So, for example, I have a series of video tutorials for free motion quilting. And so you'll see video 1 of 5, video 2 of 5. And so I lay them out that way. But because my projects, for the most part, tend to be one-time projects, I can usually fit them all into one video. Unless it's, again, a series where I'm starting off with a more basic entry-level understanding of a technique. And then in the second video, I want to build on that. On the third one, I want you to practice what you learned in 1 and 2, and then add now what we've learned in 3. So when it's something that builds on each episode or each video tutorial, then I will call mine a series. But usually a web series, I would say, is more, because, there's so many different genres of videos on YouTube. You have musicians, you have people that do comedy. Because mine are instructional, I would only call them a series when, obviously, the instructions build on the previous video in that series.
Now, that makes total sense. Now, one of your videos, and you have very diverse collection. From how to take care of little ducks to quilting. And I saw one on making a bed, a platform bed.
Yeah.
And you got the information from Instructables. I think a.k.a. Can you talk about some of the other free information out there that you connect with and you think are a good source for people?
So it's It's hard and it's easy at the same time. It's easy because you can type anything into Google. If it's a project or a DIY project, DIY, by the way, stands for do it yourself. So if it's a project that you're going to do yourself, you can search on Pinterest, which is an amazing resource, which is free as well. And on Pinterest, you create these boards that are really like folders. So it catalogs basically the entire internet by pictures and videos, and you can put them into different folders. So I have some that are like hairstyle inspirations. You can have other ones that are like sewing resources, tips and tricks for quilting, basic, vegetarian recipes. Whatever you want to do, you can categorize and catalog all the different posts and things that pop up into these different folders so that you can reference them later. Because the internet, I mean, it's so vast. Oh, it's jam-packed full of information, and it's happened to be more than once or twice where I find something, I'll shut down the laptop or something, it resets, and I'll go back and I'll be like, I know I found something. I don't remember what it was called, and now how am I supposed to go back and find it? So when you have something like Pinterest, you can basically bookmark them into these different folders. So Pinterest for sure. Instructables is great for instructional stuff. They've recently, not sure how recently, but I know that they've now added video instructions on Instructables. Before, it was just text and pictures, which for me, I prefer a video if I'm trying to learn something, if I want to see it done, because I like to look at the different viewpoints, the different angles in reference to people's hands, how exactly are they holding it, what are they doing, and I feel like you can't get all those angles with text and maybe just one image, that accompanies that step or that part of the process. And so I'm always on the internet looking up different things, whether it be on Pinterest. I have specific sites like for woodworking things that that are like my go-to places, other YouTubers for woodworking, and a lot of it is becoming a part of these different communities. Now with Facebook and Facebook groups, I mean, it's amazing. I don't think a lot of people realize that in the search box in Facebook, you can type in whatever the topic may be, homesteading in Alabama, and a group will probably pop up that says Alabama homesteaders or something. So whatever your interests are, you can even bring them more localized and find yourself a local group that has those things in common or that offers classes or workshops and things that you can learn from as well. But Instructables, Pinterest for sure, and then I find that just doing regular Google searches or the same Pinterest searches will land you in some type of a online directory, which is popular a lot for crafts. You'll have these websites that basically is just like a living archive of a bunch of other tutorials that exist on the web, whether they be video or those text, like just written out instructions with pictures as well. Sometimes people say they like the written instructions and pictures because they'll be looking at a project at work and they can't play the video out loud. I'm like, you shouldn't be looking at it at work. But others really prefer the video aspect because they can see everything. And me personally, I love the video side of it. When we moved to the homestead here, we didn't know anything about freezing pipes. And the first time I had a busted pipe, my husband says, call the plumber. And I'm like, no, I refuse to call a plumber. I'm going to fix it myself. And sure enough, I went to YouTube. It took me a while. You could hear me screaming in my house, like, I'm looking for the Crafty Gemini of plumbing, somebody who's going to walk me through step by step. And sure enough, I ended up finding a video, $14 and one trip to the hardware store later, and I can fix any busted pipe out here. It was that easy. I'm like,
it's a very satisfying thing.
Oh, absolutely. And you learn life skills. Later on down the line, who knows where I'll be? I have a busted pipe. I know how to do it.
You never know. But I also think it's an attitude more than the specifics of fixing something that you can figure it out.
That's true.
Now, some videos I see on about.com to teach you something. So is about.com a place that incorporates lots of people who make videos and have a certain standard?
They do. I mean, the last time, they reached out to me. First, they're trying to find video content to be added to the site. So obviously, the first place they're going to look is on YouTube, so they can kind of screen people and see who's good on camera, who would be good to add, who's an expert in whatever the subject area is. But there's a lot of online sites like that now that are online educational, online instructional sites, and they will oftentimes reach out to popular YouTubers and ask you, if you want to do a video for this, if you want to do a video for that, we'd like to feature you on this or that. But they do reach out. They tend to grab, I think if you watch some of the older videos, they used to kind of schedule a date with a videographer and they'd come out to your house. and they would film like a series of videos. And they decided on those things, last I heard, based on searches and keyword searches, like what people are looking for online were popular topics and subjects. So then they'd find like an expert in that area and then put together a series of videos for that.
Interesting. Now, so many do-it-yourself videos, where do you see this eventually going? Do you see it all being organized in a different way?
You know, I think a lot of the newer websites that are coming up that I mentioned, like the educational ones, they're categorizing and cataloging things differently, where you can log on and it's just like, hey, we teach everything. And then you have all these different menus that you can search for graphic design, illustration, and you have these different expert instructors under the different areas and things that you may want to learn. But I feel like because we started off with YouTube, it's just a free-for-all on YouTube. So the only thing that weeds the videos out or screens them for you is the keywords that you use. So I feel like the more video and content creators, like those of us that create videos, the more we're educated on how to properly label and title your YouTube videos and to properly enter the information in the description box, I think that will help catalog them a little bit easier. So when people type in how to quilt, you know that only the how to quilt videos will pop up. But I don't know that Google has any plans to categorize things in that sense, you know, because that's part of it all, is whoever's been there longer, whoever gets more watch time, meaning the amount of minutes of your video that people are watching. So say you post a 4-minute video up there, and Google, you know, they track all the analytics for all these things. It's pretty amazing, the technology involved. But say you have a 4-minute video, and the majority of people are just Xing out the video or changing the browser page or whatever after 10 seconds. You only have 10 seconds of watch time there for the 4-minute video. If, say, it's a really great video and the content is fabulous and people are watching 3 minutes and 45 seconds of the 4-minute video, then your video is going to get ranked higher up, assuming you have all these other things in place as well. Is going to be popping up higher because that is telling the YouTube algorithm that this is a good video because people are staying engaged with it longer, they're watching it better, and so they bump it up. So it's like this is a better video under whatever these keywords that you're looking for, so other people can find it as well. And I see that happen all the time with my videos because I'll do a tutorial on something that there's maybe 50 other video tutorials on, and they've been up there for years, and I'll come out with a new one on the same subject, teaching it in my way, and very quickly mine will be up there with the top 3, even though it hasn't been up nearly as long or doesn't have anywhere near as many views as the others.
So do you look at the watch? I'm sorry. Do you look at the watch time on your videos?
Oh, absolutely. My average watch time is really, really high, and I think it has to do with the fact that mine are instructional videos, that I do them step by step. So it goes back to what I said in the beginning of people watching it, pausing it, doing it, watching it, pausing, and so they're going through the entire video because they're going all the way to the end to complete the project. You know, this is not a music video or something where I'm doing comedy where it like loses your interest and you log off. If you're trying to create the project and you've come across my video, chances are you're going to watch it all the way through.
And I think you're very good at grabbing people initially, showing them this is a very fun thing to do. So
that took me a while to believe that, you know, because I didn't used to I would sometimes show my face, sometimes not. And then I think I started doing videos because it was faster for me to film and edit them without having to show my face, because I could be doing it in my pajamas. You know, I have a little baby here that I have to nurse real quick, put her down and go film, and I don't have to, like, wash my hair and put on real clothes, you know. And so I would just do it where you could just see my hands doing it and film it. And so then I started getting comments from people that are like, you know, I miss your smile, I miss your face. And so I started then filming them the same way, but then I would take one day out to, like, shower and do my hair and put on some lip gloss, and then I'd film the intro, the beginning part of the video, and the outro, and then I would just edit those clips in so they could at least see my face. Hey, at the beginning, you know, this is what we're going to be making today, and now let's jump into the project. And then that's it. You know, then the project starts from there. But I saw that started to get really great feedback from people when they could actually see me, like you said, the enthusiasm, feel it, you know, see it all, and then get excited about making the project.
So, and that was kind of the next place I was going. You talked about learning about watch time and being in front of the camera, at least in the beginning of the video. What are some other things you learned in this process?
So actually, back in 2011, I had been uploading videos for almost 2 years at this point, and I didn't know that you could like actually make any money off the ads or anything. And then I came across a video that only had 8 views on it, and there was an ad playing. Because you know what's funny? I uploaded videos to YouTube just because it was a free platform for me to host my videos, not because I actually used YouTube. I never watched videos on there. And so I think that separates me too. I just was uploading videos. So once I started to watch them, I was like, wait a minute, how does this channel have ads on it? So then I started researching how to get ads on your YouTube channel, because I knew ads meant monetizing it. And so I found out about the YouTube Partner Program, which you had to, at that point, you had to apply for it, and basically they would look and see your channel, the type of content you were uploading, and how consistent you were, what's the feedback from the audience, and then they would accept you or not. And so being a part of the YouTube Partner Program allows you to monetize, basically to allow them to place ads on your videos so you can earn some income. And so once I found out about that, I was like, oh, by then, I mean, I had some videos that had 10,000 views, which was a lot for me. I was like, whoa. So I applied for the program. They accepted me. And then soon after that, I saw a YouTube contest that they were holding. YouTube and Google put out basically a call for audition videos. They were looking for 25 up-and-coming YouTube artists, YouTube video creators who had the potential to be the next big thing. And I seen this, and I was screaming. I was like, this is for me. I have to win this. I'm like, they're picking 25 people. I have to be one of them. And sure enough, I had gotten a brand new camera around that time, got a laptop, got some new editing software, taught myself everything, how to use the software, the camera. I filmed an audition video. I submitted it, and I won. And so for winning, I was one of the 25 winners of YouTube Next Up. It was kind of like this class that they put together to invest in the video creators and help you build your brand. And as a part of our prize package, we got $35,000 to build our brand. We got new equipment. So I got, my tripod that I use with a swinging arm so I can get a nice aerial shot that I like to use for my videos. New computer, editing, just like the whole thing. And they actually flew us up to New York, and we met at Google offices there. And we got to meet the people that crunch the numbers and do the algorithm for YouTube. We got to meet people that were big time, that were just making crazy money off of YouTube. And they taught us some tips and tricks on how to build community on YouTube, how to build a loyal following, how to build your audience. And so I learned a lot of different things from attending that camp. Because at that point, out of the 25 winners, I think I was second from the bottom up with the least amount of subscribers. I was, a nobody. They were talking about things and asking questions, and I'm sitting there like, what are they talking about? Because none of it applied to me. One of the things was the trolls. And we call them trolls. They're like the people that post really nasty comments on your YouTube channels, and they just do, they're just people that want to be mean on videos. So some of the people were asking if they leave them on there or do they moderate it and delete it. And I remember sitting in that room thinking, a negative comment? I've never had one negative comment on my videos. I'm like, why would they leave me a negative comment? I'm teaching them. I'm helping them, And very quickly after that, I realized, the bigger you get, the more the trolls come out. But some of the winners, they had been on the Conan O'Brien show, and, some people were like big-time YouTubers. But I learned a lot from there and how to analyze and read my analytics, my numbers, to really understand what is going on with my channel, who's the demographic that's accessing these videos, and learning all those different little things so that you can then, take that and apply it to whatever your future projects are, or also in my case, reaching out to companies for sponsorships and videos and showing them like, hey, your target audience is my demographic who's watching these videos. And so I could show them those type of numbers from looking at the analytics of that.
Wow, it's impressive how you're just a go-getter as far as reaching out in so many different directions.
Oh, I'm not shy. I don't care. Because you know what? The money that you make off YouTube, unless you have crazy viral videos and you're just a huge, 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 millions upon millions, the money is not set. It changes with the season. So coming up on the holiday season, you have more companies paying more because they want more of those ads running in front of viewers' eyes. So the money fluctuates. I can have twice as many subscribers and I won't make, I won't even make what I made last year at half that number. So it just depends, and so it's not a steady income. So you really can't just live off of that. So for me, it was like I'm starting to build this really loyal following, and I want to continue to give them this free content. I enjoy what I'm doing, but I need to feed my kids. So it was how, finding a balance between still providing the public with a free service for them, but finding some way to monetize it in a different way, which ended up for me being contacting companies and getting them to pay me for products that I already used, you know. I contact a company and say, hey, I use this, I love it, I would love to do a video, you know, sponsored that says, you know, just getting me to kind of push the product a little bit more, or share with people why I like it or my review of it or whatever it is. And so then I started doing that back then.
No, it's great how many different ways you connect. Now, do you have any prodigies or people who have learned from you and created their own YouTube channels?
I don't know that after finding me or learning from me they created their YouTube channels, but I definitely get a lot of emails from people who create their own Etsy shops, you know, like an online marketplace where they sell their handmade finished goods. I'll get people email me all the time over the years. They'd say, hey, I made your pillowcase dress for my daughter. We went to church this weekend, and now people are placing orders. So I started a little shop online, and they'll send me the link. And, like, when you look at their the products they have for sale, like the finished goods, they're all products that they're from my tutorials, which I love because I actually get emails from a lot of military wives whose husbands are overseas. And so they say they find my videos because they're trying to find something to pass the time. So they start creating these things for themselves as gifts or whatever it may be, and then all of a sudden it turns into a small business. So now they're super proud of themselves because they've learned this new skill. They enjoy what they're doing. It gives them some downtime after they put the kids to bed, you know, to be a single parent, and they still are able to find that creative side, enjoy it, and also be bringing in some extra income to help their spouse out, you know. So, again, that's probably another part of the rewarding parts. I remember when I would get those emails, I would tell my husband, I'm like, I create jobs. I'm creating jobs. And I'd be so happy. I'm like, look at that. For zero. I mean, they watch my videos for free. They're learning these skills, and they're turning it into a revenue stream for their house. I mean, you can't ask for anything more rewarding than that, seriously.
No, it's a fascinating thing how just creating something, well, it comes from an authentic place, and it's a good thing you're creating, but it's great how it spurs so much good activity. What advice would you give to somebody who is just starting out making YouTube videos, has something they want to share, just how to get started and to connect with this bigger marketplace? So
I would say today it's so much easier than when I started. I mean, right now you can go create a YouTube channel and right then put your first video up and put ads on it and start monetizing it. So it's a totally different game. At the same time, even though it's a lot easier, it's also a lot harder in the sense that it's so saturated that you really have to kind of find your own voice on how to stand out. So for me, I think, at least from the comments I get, is that people relate to me because of how I am. I'm relatable, I guess, you know, is what people tell me. I feel like just a regular person. I don't feel like fake. Sometimes, you know, in my videos you can see, sometimes I have makeup on, sometimes I look really cute, and other times I'm wearing like a tank top and I'm in the garden with a baby on my back. So it's like I'm not pretentious in any way. I just keep it real. And to me, whenever people meet me and they say, my goodness, you're just like you are in the videos, I'm like, I am the same person. Did you expect me to be different? You know, I'm like, this is the world of reality TV, and that's really pretty much what YouTube is. You cannot be fake on YouTube and think people are not going to catch on. They're very keen to that. Like, people can very easily see through all that, especially in the amount of videos that, I mean, somebody like me is creating. I have over 300 and something videos. Can you imagine? I wouldn't be able to keep up with a lie that I said 3 years ago in a video today. Like, I'm like, how can you be fake? You know, you just got to be real. So I think coming from that having an authentic voice is really what would make somebody stand out in this day and age with as many channels, content, and video creators as there are on YouTube. So I would say not to think about it in a way of like, well, I don't think people want to see this, because that's how I started, and that held me back a lot. I feel like if I would have just gone with what my husband was telling me and just did more videos, I probably would have even grown bigger or just faster. You know what I mean? Like, I could have just been doing more videos without thinking, well, no, nobody cares about that. I think don't think of it in that sense. I think if you have a passion, you enjoy doing something, and you have your specific, authentic voice, then I would totally encourage them 100% to start uploading their videos on YouTube. If you're trying to push the videos and market them in a way that you're finding maybe people are not organically finding them just through search engines, and you kind of want to give it another push, I'd say to look up some of those directories that we mentioned. So for crafting and DIY, we talked about Instructables. There's some other ones like Craft Gossip, and these are like different sites that you can submit links to videos to that have relevant content to whatever they archive there. So just getting your product, you know, your video in this case, the product, out in front of more eyes, without being spammy, I think is the key. You know, don't just like go on people's YouTube channels like, hey, check out my channel, subscribe, check out my channel, subscribe. That gets annoying really quick. But just, again, that voice of authenticity and sharing whatever your passion is. Because you'd be surprised. I mean, there's YouTube channels out there where the content creator, one of the highest paid people on YouTube, is actually a lady that she just opens up Disney toys and talks about them. You never see her face. You just see her hands and these little Disney toys. I mean, and these videos are viewed millions upon millions. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, you think nobody wants to watch your stuff? But trust me, if you have a niche and you have something that you love to do and you have a voice, go for it. And I'm telling you, there's so many of these toy review channels. And the thing is, the kids have their tablets, they have their computers, and they just sit there and they just want to see what came in the latest little whatever thing, you know? And they just sit there and rewatch the videos over and over, and they're just unpackaging little knick-knack toys that they got. It's the craziest thing.
I think that's great advice about, you know, being your authentic self and saying what you have to say. But you're very organized, and you know exactly what you're talking about. You're not fumbling around on the camera, and that also comes across. Now, we're coming to the end of our time. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with before we sign off?
No, I think that was a good ending point in telling people to be their authentic voice if they want to create a YouTube channel and just do their own thing. Remember, you're never going to make everybody happy, so some people will love you and some people won't. But, you know, that's just something you got to deal with. That's something that I had to get over years ago because I'm a people pleaser naturally, and I always wanted to make everybody happy, and it got to a point where it was like either I'm going to stop making videos because I realized I can't make everybody happy, or I'm just going to continue to live off of the positive comments and the rewarding sides of things and the people that I'm helping and having a positive impact on their life, and then continue going forward.
Perfect. I think it's a beautiful thing you're doing, and I'm real appreciative you joined us tonight. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, David. I appreciate it.
Good deal. Have a good night.
You.
And that was Vanessa Vargas Wilson, and also known as the Crafty Gemini, and we have a link to her website as well as her YouTube channel right in the show description. And I think she offered great advice about finding your authentic voice. And if you check out any of her videos, there's so much to be learned there. And it's just an enjoyable process to watch. So this is David Levins signing off for a kind voice on employment, opportunity, and innovation. Have a great night, everybody.
Well, hello, fellow soldier, how's your day? Come take my arm, let's walk and sink away. I want to know your thoughts now, yes, it's true. And that bluebird, he flew by now just for you. You step outside, you don't know who you'll meet. Feel the pitter patter of the street. Join the crowd and sing in harmony. I won't let go, come link elbows with me. Just know that I am there for you, to hear your voice, care to lend a hand. In this moment, we will work together and turn a new kind stranger to a friend. I'll walk down that lonely road alone, searching for a place to call home. The path is long, we cannot see the end, but the journey's so much better with a friend. Come to my house and rest those weary bones. Drink and laugh, we'll both refill our souls. That cup of cheer you're drinking sure tastes sweet. I'm glad that get your acquaintance, I did me. Ooh, and you know that I am there for you, to hear your voice, care to lend a hand. In this moment, we'll work together to turn a new kind stranger to a friend. Ooh, and you know that